Welcome to Ambassador's Daily Banquet. I am God's servant David F. Nwefulu. Prepare your heart for fresh revelation that will empower your faith.
All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're going to be breaking down a daily devotional titled The Cross and Transformation. This piece was published back on April 16th, 2026, and we're going to dig into its key ideas about what it calls personal change. So, here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll look at the big goal, the why of it all. Then we'll get into the how, what powers this change and what the process looks like. After that, we'll check out some real-world examples, the what, and wrap up with how the devotional says you can apply this stuff to your own life.
Okay, first up, the goal. We're talking about understanding the why. Right out of the gate, the source material lays out its main theme, and it's this idea of being actively changed to become more like Christ. So, the big idea here is that for a believer, the end game isn't just about having a fixed set of beliefs. Nope. It's about a dynamic, ongoing process of personal change. And this whole concept of being changed, well, that's pretty much the foundation for everything else we're going to talk about. And what's interesting is that the source doesn't present this as just, a nice spiritual goal to have if you get around to it. It's framed as something absolutely essential, which of course brings up a really important question. Why? Why is this transformation seen as so crucial? Well, here's the answer the devotional gives us. It's not just about your own personal spiritual growth, though that's a big part of it. It's also about your impact on the world around you. Things like being an effective leader or having a positive influence on your community. So the real key here, according to the text, is that it's about living your faith through your actions, not just talking about it.
Okay, so if that's the goal, what's the engine driving it? How does it actually happen? That brings us to our second section, the power of the cross. This is where we get into the how and explore the mechanism that makes this change possible.
Now, the source material really anchors itself to this specific verse from Romans. It's kind of the key that unlocks the whole message, because look at what it does. It directly connects the word transformed to a very specific action, the renewing of your mind.
So, with that verse as the foundation, the devotional gives us this definition to work with. And this is a really crucial point. Transformation isn't just self-help or trying to be a better person. No, according to this text, it's a deep, internal change from the inside out. And the power for that change comes from one specific source, the death and resurrection of Jesus. All right, so the cross provides the power, but what does the process look like? How do you actually participate in this? That's what our next section is all about, breaking down the mechanics of what renewing your mind really means in practice.
And the source is super clear on this. This is not a one-and-done kind of thing. It's an ongoing daily process. It's a commitment that involves three key actions: a daily sense of surrender, consistent prayer, and actually applying God's word to your life. Okay, that all sounds great in theory, right? But what does this transformation look like in the real world? This is where the devotional gets really practical, shifting from ideas to actual examples, giving us both a major biblical case study and some modern-day results. The main example they use is the Apostle Paul, and it's a powerful one because the contrast is so stark, isn't it? Before his transformation, he was actively hunting down Christians. Afterwards, he became one of the faith's greatest champions. His story is basically Exhibit A for radical, life-altering change. Then, to bring it all home to today, the devotional says that this same power leads to real, tangible results in our lives. We're talking about things you can actually see and feel, like breaking free from destructive habits, mending broken relationships, and finding a real sense of purpose. The source sums this up as kingdom-centered living.
All right, for our last section, the devotional makes a big shift. It moves away from just explaining the concepts and goes straight to application. This is all about you, how to take these ideas and plug them into your own life and your community. So the first thing it does is ask a really direct question to get you thinking. It prompts you to do a little self-reflection and identify specific areas in your life, maybe it's a habit, an attitude, maybe some fears, where this kind of transformation is needed.
And right after that personal reflection, the text gives you what it calls a call to action. It's basically a series of commitments you can make. And if you look at them, they really wrap up the whole message we've been talking about. Committing to that daily renewal, to living a Christ-like life, and to making a positive impact on the world. The source also makes a really important point that this whole transformation journey isn't something you're supposed to do alone. And because of that, it points to a bunch of ways you can get connected with a wider community, offering support through different online groups and social media platforms.
And that really brings us to the final thought, a question that kind of bubbles up from the material itself. The devotional draws this really clear line from your own personal change to having a positive impact on your community. So it leaves us with this big, powerful idea to chew on. How could the small, daily, internal process of one person's renewal actually be the spark that leads to massive positive change for
Thank you for watching. Please share, like, and comment. Your host, God7, David F. Wafulu.